Mexico just got universal health care. Mexico literally got a female president before us. I'm starting to realize that we're a fucking third world country here. Because how the fuck are we the richest country on earth and we don't have universal health care? I think we're only rich on paper, because when it comes to policies, we are fucking poor. We are bottom of the barrel fucking poor. But where are we gonna get money for universal health care? Motherfuckers, we already pay billions on health care. That goes directly to either insurance companies, middlemans, to fuck you over, to not even answer phone calls, to tell you, oh, you had a pre-existing whatever the fuck is going on with your body. Go fuck yourself. Let me throw that negative energy away real quick. Man, fuck that. If countries in the global south can muster up the courage to make change for their fucking people, the United States of America can do it too. I'm so sick and tired of politicians in our country putting us and dividing us over this fucking human rights fucking issue. I don't know if you guys fucking know this, but when they ever offer free clinics across the country, they get fucking packed, not by hundreds, but by thousands of people. People are losing their Medicaid. They are losing Social Security benefits. They're losing anything that benefits them that they paid into their whole fucking life, just for a fucking either useless war that we're popping up every once in a while, or some bullshit ass subsidy for fucking corporation. Medicaid for all and universal health care are the fucking answer. And any fucking candidate that cannot look at you in these midterms and tell you that shit, don't even bother. Despite our shitty voting record, America, I genuinely believe we deserve better. And I genuinely want to educate everyone that I can about this issue. And I'm also learning in this process myself. But if our southern neighbor, who has way more financial struggles, can fucking muster it up, so can we.
Hey America, Mexico now has universal health care. Yes, Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, has promised every Mexican citizen that they will get universal health care. We could have had universal health care 20 times over before Trump spent the money on crypto and everything that he has in his pockets from the American people and his war. But Mexico now has full universal health care. They don't have to pay for health care anymore. This is ridiculous. Almost the entire world now has universal health care, and we're still paying big insurance company money that is unaliving our American citizens because they choose whether or not we can have health care or we can afford to get that health care. But the president of Mexico just gave it to everybody in her country. And I, no, not gonna say it. Anyways, yes, while our president destroys other countries and uses all our money on nothing except for suing people, putting tariffs on us so that we have to pay those tariffs, because those tariffs are the stuff we pay. And now Mexico has free health care, and we have to pay out our ass or be denied.
The US is 5 times wealthier than Mexico. So how come Mexico can afford free universal health care and the US cannot? Here in the US, when we get sick, we often wait and hope the problem goes away because healthcare is so expensive. If healthcare is free, we don't need to play that Russian roulette. We can get treated as soon as something is wrong. And that saves the healthcare system a lot of time and resources. It's a lot easier to treat stage 1 cancer than stage 4 cancer. And that is why Mexico and Cuba and Canada and all these other countries can afford free universal healthcare, because it is cheaper and more efficient than privatized healthcare that came before. So here in the US, we do have enough money for free universal healthcare. We just choose to spend our money bombing children in the Middle East instead. That's not right. And if you want to help my campaign fight for free universal healthcare in California, go to oliverma2026.com to get involved.
Mexico is getting universal health care in 2027. Mr. Trump wants the average U.S. citizen to pay a $30,000 deductible for the family. Something seems off.
Mexico just got universal health care. A good thing happened. And I'm a dual citizen. Let's go! Every Mexican citizen is going to have universal health care in Mexico starting in 2027. They're currently already enrolling people to have specific treatments available to them through the last half of 2026 already. Any Mexican will be able to receive care at any hospital, and they're also reopening hospitals that were previously closed. Universal coverage for every citizen across the country starting January 1st, 2027. Starting with accessible emergency care and breast cancer care. I'm so proud. Since getting into office, Claudia Sheinbaum has also just really focused her energy on social programs and on transit, increasing the minimum wage, connecting people across the country, and now universal healthcare. Also, your reminder that there's no reason why we couldn't do that here in the United States. The United States isn't too big. The only reason that we don't do that here is because we spend all of our money bombing people abroad. We spend all of our money enriching the oligarchy while inflicting U.S. imperialism and paying for the universal healthcare and education of everybody in Israel. Here in the United States, you'll just die of cancer if you don't die on the front lines by being automatically drafted in the wars that we start. Thanks, capitalism.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel once again. Now guys, this is a really shocking that Mexico is starting offering universal health care coverage for free starting in 2027, which United States has really failed. So I would like you guys to just continue with this combination of videos whereby this is the reaction from people, how American can really fail to do what a small nation like Mexico can do. And it has been the richest country in the world, can't afford to give its citizens a universal health care. So guys, I want you to watch these videos until the end, then I'll come up with more comments. I'm your host Edwin J. Ray, and if you have not subscribed, please remember to subscribe, like, and also comment.
You know what we don't have here in America is we do not have the ability to go to the doctor without worrying about how it's going to hurt us financially. What if getting sick didn't mean getting scared about money? Right now in Mexico, something quietly powerful is happening. A government is trying to build a system where no matter who you are, no matter where you live, you can just walk into a hospital and just get help. There will be no forms asking you what job you have. There's no panic about bills showing up later, and there's no choosing between your health and your rent. Just care. For years, people in Mexico technically had access to healthcare, but in reality, it depended on where you worked and where you lived and on what system you were stuck in. Some people got great care, others got left behind. And now they are trying to fix that. They're building one connected system, one place where your medical history follows you, one standard of care across the country. And the goal is if a child gets sick in a small town or someone needs treatment in a big city, they get the same chance. And look, this isn't perfect yet. It's going to take years, but there will be problems. But that's really not the point. The point is this, that an entire country is making a decision that healthcare isn't a privilege. It's something everyone should be able to count on. And whether you agree with how they're doing it or not, there is something undeniably powerful about this idea. Because the moment that people stop asking, can I afford to get help? And then they start asking, where do I go? That's when everything changes.
Mexico thinks they're cool and being all braggadocious about the fact that they beat us to universal health care. It's just funny. Because what are you talking about, Mexico? We've been funding universal health care for decades now. Our tax dollars have been fully funding universal health care for decades. You know, for the state that is not real, but nonetheless, it's universal health care that our tax dollars go to fund. All right, so take that braggadociousness and just, you didn't beat us. We beat you, okay?
Americans can't have shit!
Mexico has universal health care. Canada has universal health care. Every developed nation has universal health care. Remember, a shithole country is not a developing country that can't provide for its citizens. It's a country that's already developed, that has all the resources in the world, and chooses not to provide for its citizens.
So Claudia, down in Mexico, as of the beginning of 2027, has given universal health care to all Mexican citizens. Do you guys get it yet? We fucking suck. Power to the maiden.
Mexico just moved closer to universal health care, and the U.S. still can't agree if health care is a right or a luxury. Mexico is pushing forward with universal health care access through its public system, aiming to cover millions of people who previously had limited or no access to care. But here's what people are missing. This didn't just start. Back in 2020, Mexico replaced its old insurance-based system, which was Seguro Popular, with a new model focused on free public health care. Then in 2023, they launched the IMSS Bienestar to expand services nationwide, especially in underserved and rural communities. And now in 2024 through 2026, they're actively scaling it, integrating hospitals, hiring clinicians, and expanding access across multiple states. So this is not a sudden shift. This is a multi-year rollout toward universal access. And before people jump in with, well, it won't be perfect, no system is. But here's the part we need to talk about. From a clinical standpoint, access matters more than perfection, because I've seen what happens when patients delay their care, when they can't afford their medications, when they show up in crisis instead of early intervention. That is not just a patient issue. That becomes a system failure. So Mexico's approach is focused on expanding primary care, preventative services, and access to clinicians across underserved communities. And whether people want to admit it or not, that reduces emergency visits, hospitalizations, and long-term complications. Meanwhile, in the United States, we have some of the most advanced medical technology in the world. Access is still tied to employment, insurance approvals, and affordability. So the real question isn't whether universal health care is perfect. It's whether a system that delays care until it becomes critical is actually working. Because from the bedside, we already know the answer.
Well, if you're just now hearing it first, Mexico is about to get universal health care. Just like Israel, just like Canada's rolling out, just like China's rolling out. You know, it's getting so funny because the debate was always, well, who's going to pay for it? The same people who have been taking our tax dollars and paying for these missiles. Are you dumb? Everybody's doing it. I gotta slap the bald head of Mitch McConnell or something? What I gotta do? Pull him in front of the podium or something? You know all of these geriatric, senile, dementiated fucks need wheelchairs, right? But they're in charge of shit. Right. Just can't let go of the job, right? Even if the dementia kicking in, boy, I tell you. All of those senseless debates. And now Mexico, the one place that y'all constantly call a hellhole, is getting free health care. Oh, but great old America, right? Hey, look, let's get rid of our health care for the war. Woo!
El día de hoy estamos anunciando algo muy relevante. Va a salir un decreto presidencial que crea el Servicio Universal de Salud en México.
We're getting universal healthcare in Mexico before GTA 6? Wild. People in the United States think that our healthcare is normal, but it is not. There is many other countries where public healthcare is much more accessible, and Mexico is about to become one of them. You already know that Americans go to Mexico to get their health needs done when they can't afford them here. I think this exposes once again about the priorities that each country has. The United States spends more money on healthcare than any other country and still leaves millions of people without insurance. While the Presidenta is out there trying to make healthcare a public right, there is plenty of people, elected officials in the United States, that are happy with healthcare here being a profit center. Testamente, if they got money to spend on bombs, on weapons to unalive people in other other countries, they could use some of the funding to take care of Americans. I know, some of y'all are gonna be like, if you love Mexico so much, why don't you leave? Shit. We might. Because this whole narrative of go back to Mexico is starting to sound a lot less like a threat. Especially as Mexico keeps expanding and prioritizing the right things. If the Mexicanos in the United States decide to leave, this country will crumble. You all depend on us as much as we depend on the opportunities that this country provides. Sometimes. Amelia, what do you all think about this? Anything I said? What's going on in Mexico? Let's talk.
Well, it looks like Mexico might be paying for that wall after all, but it's not to keep Mexicans out of the United States, it's to keep Americans out of Mexico. President Claudia Sheinbaum is decreeing that they're going to have universal health care for 120 million residents of Mexico. Yeah, you heard that right. The country that Americans, that MAGA wants to shit on all the time, talk about how they're bad hombres and horrible people and all these terrible criminals, are now going to be a country that has universal health care. Meanwhile, in the United States, we're cutting our rural hospitals. You're not going to be able to afford medications. Premiums are going up. It's going to be an absolute mess, so we can pay for a trillionaire to have another yacht. Mexico is moving into the future and having universal health care maybe as soon as next year. Yeah, there are some wrinkles to work out, but they're moving forward with it. So expect that wall, but it ain't to keep the Mexicans out, it's to keep the Americans out.
I don't know what's a better personification of the saxophones are getting louder than hearing that Mexico's Presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum wants to pass universal health care by the year 2027 in Mexico, the same week that our president threatened to end an entire civilization. And not just that, but he wants to do it. He wants to fund his war not war with our healthcare money. He wants to cut our already bad healthcare and give us less of it.
What do you mean Mexico can afford to give all 120 million of its citizens universal health care starting next year? And here we are, putting millions of Americans in lifelong debt because we need 1.5 trillion to fund the Pentagon. We have Canada to our north who has universal health care. So it can be done. And they are continuing to make a choice to not give that universal health care access to us. Are we great yet?
Mexico is getting universal health care. That's pretty much the video. Mexico is getting universal health care. In the U.S., those of us here in the U.S., we have so much financial hardship when it comes to health care. Mexico is getting universal health care. While us Americans, we pay extremely high premiums for health care. And there's more countries that offer universal health care. That's it.
Mexico just announced a universal healthcare system that will be up and running by 2027. Meanwhile, in the U.S., people are creating GoFundMe for their children's cancer diagnoses and going into debt over ambulance rides, skipping doctor's appointments because they can't afford gas. The president is saying that he can't afford Medicaid, but he's starting wars that have no real purpose. And my comments are full of people telling me that my child with Down syndrome costs too much taxpayer dollars. Yes, I'm jealous. I wish it was us. This is why we can't have nice things, America. Congrats to Mexico.
You may have heard that Mexico is getting universal health care in 2027, but this isn't exactly true because, well, Mexico already has universal health care, and they've had it for years, decades. However, what is new now under Presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum is the system is going to be a lot more streamlined. Let me explain. Because right now, while healthcare here is, yes, considered a basic human right and available to anyone free or low cost, the system is still pretty fragmented. Currently, Mexico has 3 public systems for healthcare, and it's dependent on where you work.
You have a system for private care workers, you have a separate system for government workers, and then you have a system for everyone else. And just to be clear, all of this is already free to very low cost. We're talking everything from emergency care to doctor's visits to surgeries to chemotherapies and cancer treatments. However, the problem is that these systems don't talk to each other. And for the most part, you have to go to your separate hospitals or clinics, which can be hundreds of miles away from you, which, as you can imagine, can cause delays, backlogs, and make healthcare really difficult to access for many people. Therefore, the new announcement is that over the next couple of years, the goal is to make all of these systems work more like one. Now, you'll be able to go to the closest hospital, your medical records will follow you, and access to care won't be so tied up to where you work. And as an American who has lived here in Mexico since 2019, I have a lot of first-hand experience with Mexico's healthcare system, both planned and, well, not planned. Now that's mostly private hospitals and doctors, although as a permanent resident, I do qualify for the public system. That can be a whole separate video. But overall, this announcement is really wonderful news for the people of Mexico.
Mexico is getting universal health care. The Mexican president Claudia Sheinbaum recently announced that starting in 2027, all 130 million Mexican citizens will have access to free, high-quality universal health care. This also includes universal breast cancer care for women. And this decision has been met with overwhelmingly positive reception. Now, contrary to what US news media and outlets like Univision and Latinus would tell you, Claudia actually has a really high approval rating and most people are on board with this. Now, up until this point, Mexico has had some semblance of universal healthcare, but it has been very disjointed. Some parts work very well, while others not so much. But this aims to fix that entirely. And this is another reason why I always advocate and encourage people to get their Mexican citizenship. You can only qualify for this universal healthcare if you are a Mexican citizen. So go get your Mexican citizenship. Not only that, but if you become a Mexican citizen, your kids also become Mexican citizens and they can have free universal healthcare as well. But there you have it, guys. Mexico is getting universal healthcare. That's something the US media will never tell you. And remember, healthcare is a human right. It's not something that you should have to pay for. But anyways, let me know what you guys think.
Breaking. Mexico just achieved something that half of America doesn't even see as possible. And it's already working. Mexico is now providing free health care to citizens who are not covered by their employer. This is a huge part of the population that has not been getting service or care up until now. And this will be especially beneficial for people who live in rural areas. Free doctor visits, free surgeries, and free medicine will all be provided. Funded by the government, available to the people who need it most. This is a new concept for Mexico, so they're going to need time to refine it, and I'm excited to see how that goes. As of now, there's still resource gaps and regional challenges, but to me, the biggest thing is the commitment that the government is showing towards its people. It understands that people need health insurance, or people need care, and people need to be able to get help when they need it when it comes to medical stuff. In short, they are basically saying healthcare is a basic human right. It is not a luxury like we have it here in the United States of America. It's funny because Mexico made healthcare free right after reports have come out saying that the #1 cause for bankruptcy in the United States is medical debt or medical bills. Not gambling, not drug addictions, not job loss, medical bills. There's literally people right now in the United States that have to choose between groceries and prescriptions or medicine or seeing a doctor. And that's just not how it should be. This isn't about making America into Mexico. It's actually about recognizing the choice to not provide affordable health care to people is exactly that, a choice. Which is why it's so important for us to pay attention to who we are voting for so we can get people who have our best interest in office. And if we do this and we stay vigilant and we actually hold our officials accountable, we could get stuff like this too, and even more. And I will be here to spread the word when it happens. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Please continue to like, comment, share, and follow.
Hello guys, welcome back. I hope you have just watched that full message from MAGA people reaction. MAGA, they are really furious with this situation. because it has now reaches a time that we must sit down and ask ourselves why America is not really doing what other country is doing, because Mexico has joined Canada and so many other countries giving their healthcare first priority, and America being the richest country in the world, it failed really to cover their own citizens, because a lot of Americans, they are in a very bad debt because of bad medical treatment. Now Americans, they are praying God to have no bad health because there is no medical care in the country. So guys, I would like to see your thoughts in comment section about this failing of American to give their citizens a good health care comparing to the Mexico. So guys, if you have not subscribed, please remember to subscribe, like, and also comment to get more updates.